So I'd like to begin just by saying a big thank you to Purina and the Purina Institute for giving me the opportunity of sharing with you today. And we're going to be looking at the impact of cat allergies on the cat and in particular the human-animal bond, the human-cat bond. So what I want to do with this presentation is just very briefly to look at pet ownership and that human-animal bond and the importance of the human-animal bond, and then why people choose to own cats, why people end up relinquishing cats on occasions to rehoming organizations in particular, and sometimes why rehoming of cats from a shelter ends up going wrong. And as you'll see as we go through this, cat allergies have an important role to play in all of this. First of all, we know that for both cats and dogs, the vast majority of pet cats and dogs that are kept in homes are considered to be a member of the family. Well over 90% of owners would say that their dog or their cat is simply a member of their family. That human-animal bond is extremely strong. It's based on the fact that there is unconditional love and affection that we receive from our pets. They provide companionship, they provide emotional support. And interestingly, the graph on the right-hand side there, that was a paper that was published in 2008. And it showed that more owners are secure in their relationship with their pet than they are with their partner. And I think that does speak to this unconditional love, the unconditional affection that we receive from our pets, which all of us that own dogs or cats know and recognize. It's interesting that studies have looked at the quality of the human-animal bond and compared dog ownership and cat ownership. Sometimes there have been differences that have been found, sometimes not. This was a study that tried to examine differences between dog owners and cat owners in their relationship with their pet. And interesting, they really found that there wasn't any difference in the quality of that human-animal bond, the companionship, the fact that it is something to love, affection that underlies this, the feeling that we get of being needed, of being loved, of being trusted by our dog or cat, the pleasure that we get from this. They found that there was no real difference between dog owners and cat owners with this. The quality of that relationship, the importance of that relationship is just the same, whether it's a cat or a dog. The only real differences between dog owners and cat owners comes when you ask questions that are more species specific. So, for example, does owning your pet make you feel safe? Well, not surprisingly, for dog owners, that's more commonly a yes than for cat owners. For dog owners, more often the ownership results in increased exercise. But if you take out those species-specific things, there's no real difference in the quality of that relationship. And that relationship is extremely important. Not only does it provide that love and affection that we desire, but it results in measurable improvement in physical and mental health characteristics as well. There are many reports of pet ownership and cat ownership increasing social support, very much like having a parent or a brother or sister, increased social support, increased feelings of self-esteem, increased happiness, and reduced feelings of isolation, reduced depression. In fact, in many countries where this has been studied, there is a significant reduction associated with pet ownership in visits to a healthcare professional and reduction in overall use of medication. And very good evidence from meta-analysis of data that pet ownership can improve cardiovascular disease and reduce hypertension. So there are health benefits from this as well. So with all of those benefits, you wonder sometimes why people don't own dogs and cats. And there have been studies that have looked at this. Why have you never owned a pet? Well, this is a study from American Humane Society that was published in 2012. They looked at 500 people that had never owned a dog or never owned a cat, and they asked them why they had never owned a dog or cat. And these were the reasons. Not surprisingly, some owners or some potential owners simply don't like dogs or cats. Their lifestyle is one where it would be difficult to have a dog or cat. But you can see there the third most common reason for not owning a cat was because they were allergic to cats, much more common than dogs. So cat allergy prevents some people from owning a cat in the first place. That study also asked people who had previously owned a dog or a cat why they no longer own that pet. So again, this was looking at 500 former cat owners, 500 former dog owners, and asking them why they no longer own a dog or a cat. And again, you can see that there are different reasons, as you would expect. Sometimes because the owner travels, sometimes because of the expense of owning a dog or cat, sometimes because they simply don't have time to look after a dog or cat. But again, you'll notice the fourth category there, being allergic to the cat, accounted for 16% of those former owners not now having a cat. Again, much higher for cats than dog owners. Allergy to the cat preventing them getting another cat. So another way of evaluating the impact of cat allergies, is to look at reasons why people give up their cat to a shelter, why they surrender their pet to a shelter or a rehoming organization. And there have been a number of studies in different countries that have looked at this and looked at the reason. The first thing I would say, and this was highlighted by this particular study, this is a decision that most owners find extremely difficult to make. In this particular study, every owner that they interviewed and asked about it, they really struggled with this decision. Sometimes we think that for owners, it's an easy thing just to relinquish their pet to a rehoming organization. For most owners, that is not an easy decision. But you can see this was a study that combined both dogs and cats. The second most common reason for relinquishment was allergy, 18%. Didn't differentiate between the dogs and the cats in this particular study. So this was a study from Australia looking at cats that were relinquished to shelters, 33 different shelters across Australia, looking at nearly 50,000 different owners that relinquished cats. Variety of different reasons, as you would expect, for cats giving up their cats to these shelters, from inappropriate housing, number of animals that were in the house, financial reasons, behavioral problems. But in 3% of the cases, it was because of an allergy. The owner had developed an allergy to the cats, and that was the reason for relinquishing the cat to the shelter. This was another survey from Australia looking at shelters in 3 different regions. Quite a detailed study looking at 55 owners of cats and their reasons for giving up the cat. Again, having inappropriate housing was a common reason. Their circumstances had changed in the house, which meant they couldn't cope with the cat any longer, financial reasons. But as you can see, developing an allergy to the cats was responsible for 18% of those relinquishments. So really quite a high proportion. This was another big study from the UK this time, looking at over 6,000 cats that were relinquished to 11 rehoming centres, cats protection rehoming centres in the UK. Again, you can see variety of different reasons, change in circumstances, a litter of kittens that have been born that the owners weren't expecting and weren't wanting, and so they gave them up to the shelter, behavioral reasons. But again, owners developing an allergy to the cat was a cause in 8% of those cases of relinquishment. So a significant number of those owners had to give up the cat because they were allergic to the cat. And this is that study from the United States again, from the American Humane Association. They looked at 105 cats and 94 dogs that were relinquished to shelters. And they found that, in fact, development of a cat allergy in this study was the second most common reason for cats to be relinquished to a shelter. Again, a much higher rate with cats than with dogs. Only 2% of dogs surrendered because of development of allergy. Another large study from the States, 12 shelters, reasons for relinquishment of nearly 1,500 cats, 19% of them. Development of an allergy, the owner or somebody in the house developing an allergy to the cat was the reason, 19%, third most common reason. Again, much more common for cats than for dogs as a reason for relinquishment. So these give us an idea of the importance of cat allergy as a cause of needing to give up the cat from living in the household. Just very briefly as well, there are also some studies that have been done where cats have been rehomed from a shelter and then brought back to the shelter because that rehoming failed. Why did that fail? Well, this was a study from the UK. They looked at 166 cats that were returned to shelters after being rehomed. In 18% of those cases, the cat was returned because of an allergy of somebody in the house, allergy to the cat. This was a carefully conducted study in the United States. This was University of Florida, where they had a group of cats that were involved in biomedical research, lethal studies. These cats were adopted out after the end of the studies. So over 450 cats adopted out. And they did a follow-up survey to see how successful that had been. Got results back from 275 of those cats. And most of them, 93%, stayed in their homes completely successful. 18 of those cats were relinquished. And again, the top three reasons for relinquishment of those cats, behavioral problems because it didn't get on with another cat in the house, behavioral problem because of inappropriate elimination, and in 17%, someone in the house was allergic to the cat. So you can see that cat allergy has a big impact on this human-cat bond, the human-animal bond. In around 5 to 20% of cases, allergy may be the reason for relinquishing a cat to a rehoming center, and it's often in the top 3 or 5 causes of relinquishment. 16% of previous cat owners cited allergy as a reason not to get another cat, and between 6 and 18% of people cited allergy as a reason not to consider getting a cat in the first place. So this does have a big impact. It should also be said, this is looking really at the tip of the iceberg. There will be many cases where people are allergic to cats where they don't actually eliminate cats from the household. They continue to live with the cat. In fact, surveys have suggested medical practitioners anticipate that only around about 30% of owners are likely to get rid of the cat when they advise it because they are allergic to the cat. Studies that have been done suggest actually the number is lower than that. These are 2 studies that I could find. One, only 22% of owners complied with the recommendation to get rid of the cat. The second study, only 4%. And again, this speaks of the quality of that human-animal bond. We don't want to give up the cat simply because we develop an allergy to the cat. But that will continue to cause problems. So we need to look at ways that we can minimize the impact of cat allergy in cases where humans continue to live alongside cats despite having a cat allergy. So thank you for listening, and I hope that's given you some useful insights.